Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Social Media Help Desk. I'm Stephen Wagner, I'm the Director of Operations here at KWSM, and I'm joined by Jeff, who's our Managing Content Editor.
Hello.
And Lila, who's one of our content editors here. And we've got some exciting things to talk to you guys about today. So first, we're just going to jump right into some interesting things that are happening in the news. And so one of the first things is that IGTV, you guys know Instagram TV, right? It rolled out maybe a year ago, I'd say. Hasn't been as popular as I think that people thought it was going to be, or maybe that Instagram was hoping it would be. And so one of the things that they're doing is traditionally, or until now, they haven't allowed like horizontal videos to be on it. It was like only videos to be shot in the vertical format, right? That they really allowed on there. And so I think in an effort to really open it up to people who have created content in a horizontal way, they've actually opened it up to allow horizontal videos now, which is an interesting thing. So what do you guys think of this? What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I have been banging the horizontal drum for a very long time with people when we talk about content. There's a reason why your TV is horizontal. That 16:9 aspect ratio, that's the way you're intended to see things, and that's the way actually our cameras on our smartphones best record video. I understand that Snapchat, I think, led the way and wanted to do something different, and I know that when we hold our phones, it is easier to hold it this way, but you're really cutting off a lot of the width of what you're seeing, and you end up, I was just telling someone this the other day, when you take a shot in a room, of a conference room table, you cut out almost all the people at the table, but you get a lot of floor and a lot of ceiling.
Yeah.
And so I actually applaud IGTV. I don't know that is why it's suffering. I think a lot of people prefer to shoot this way, especially in the Snapchat and the Instagram users. They have habit. But when you ever see those wings on the side, it's because they didn't shoot the proper way. If you talk to a videographer. And so I do think it's a good thing to have. I think just anytime you offer more options to the user, you get more buy-in. And I think if someone has been hesitant to use IGTV because of that, although I don't really know too much of that, but certainly you're giving them another alternative to broadcast their video.
Yeah, definitely. Layla, do you watch IGTV at all?
I do not watch IGTV, but what I did notice is that in the first 2 weeks or so, there was a lot of YouTube influencers that were willing to create content for YouTube and then to create separate content for IGTV, and I can imagine that gets tiresome after doing that for a few weeks, so allowing them to just download their video from either IGTV and upload it to YouTube or vice versa, I think will create larger adoption, at least for those people, which is where a lot of that video content is more popular. And it gives businesses the opportunity to hop in as well. Yeah, no,
I agree, and I think that they came up against this interesting dilemma because most video that's shot vertically is kind of more informal, but they're trying to do IGTV, which is this longer form video, which is a higher production value, right? And so if you're going to put all that time and money into a higher production value, you're probably going to shoot it horizontally because that's how most actual real cameras are shot, and that's what most people are using when they're actually shooting this stuff for social media is actual cameras and not their phones. And so it's interesting that they're opening it up to this. It seems a little desperate to me, if like I'm being honest. Like it seems a little bit like, this isn't as popular. Let's try to change this one thing and see if it works. And maybe it will. I don't know. But we'll see. Certainly something to look out for and something to take note of.
You think actually, just to finish this thought, is that they would have rolled this out with perhaps some professional videographers who are insistent on horizontal and then endorsing the opening of that. Even if it was YouTubers, like you said, YouTubers shoot in mind horizontal because you're watching it in HD on, within YouTube, especially if you're watching it now on your TVs or whatever. And so, as I don't know, Instagram TV, I don't believe is broadcasting the format where you're able to watch it on an actual TV like you would YouTube.
I don't think so.
But maybe that's coming down the pipeline someday, and that will be as you have 4K TVs and things like that. You'll want that content to be as high res as possible and as glamorous and attractive as possible. And so I just would have thought that maybe along with that, they would have rolled out, hey, these creators are showing you the dynamic, presentation you're able to provide when you're able to do this. But I don't know, we'll see. They seem to be, Instagram seems to have made all the right moves, i.e. stealing all the right things from Snapchat.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, who knows? Maybe this will be the next great thing and they've got a plan going with it.
Yeah, right. Well, it seems like they're trying to steal the YouTubers over to Instagram.
Right, it's the next thing.
Because, you know, obviously you've got those YouTubers who are on Instagram and on YouTube, and so it's like, if you can put it all into one thing, maybe. Yeah, so if we're continuing to talk about Instagram, another new interesting thing that's happening here is they've got a potential new sticker, okay? And so on Instagram, there is a sticker currently that's like the product sticker, okay? And there was, it was leaked that there was an order sticker that was shown up on someone's account, which is interesting. And they quickly went away, and Instagram has sort of like covered it up and said, no, this isn't actually a thing. But obviously it's a thing. If it was on someone's Instagram account, they've actually put some effort into that. And so, you know, I don't know, Layla, what do you think about having like an order sticker for like an Instagram story? How do you think that could help?
I mean, in general, with organic, I mean, we had a team meeting today learning all about all the new features of Instagram and what Instagram's narrative is, and they don't necessarily need you to be selling ads. And I think this is really heading into that direction of bridging that gap, is that Instagram doesn't necessarily want you to pay for ads to get that order now feature. They want you to be able to use your network and have that relationship and allow you to use order now in your personal stories. I think is fantastic. It's exactly what influencers want, because then they can have their affiliate code there. And it's also great for businesses because they can now get that exposure directly to their website or directly to their purchases without necessarily having to pay for every penny. So it's interesting that Instagram is headed in this direction. It's becoming a shopping channel.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like we talked about last week, you know, they are rolling out in-app purchases where you don't even have to go to a website in order to purchase products, which you know, I think this ties right along with that, is that Instagram is trying to capture those sales within the app, thus obviously making money off of those transactions. So, Jeff, any thoughts on this?
Well, I was going to say, I think, you know, Layla, you hit it on the head about how that organic purchasing now is, you can tell a friend and still give them order, right? And people want the shortest amount of steps to accomplish something.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time in the landing pages we build and even the ads we have. They don't have to be long, drawn out processes. A lot of times people just want to know, how do I get this? And I think this is relevant because, especially as you see this organic push now, and it doesn't have to be a ton of ads from a business. You know, I come from a place in TV where 15, 20 years ago, if Oprah told people to go out and buy a book, everybody went out and bought the book. And Oprah's, while still very relevant, has been replaced by communities and people who, if you go out and say to somebody, hey, I'm taking these vitamins that, you know, they're pure vitamins and they go under my tongue and they dissolve and they're great and they're, you know, free of toxins and all that, like, you're giving me information that's relevant and we're part of the same community. And if you tell me here's how to order it and there's a button there for it, the brand benefits, but I'm trusting you that that's the shortest way to do that. And so I just think it's putting the purchasing power in the hands of the consumers a lot. And so it's more of that authentic testimonial kind of social proof that we a lot of times pitch to our brands, that like, this is really important to have advocates out there for you. And so I just think it's a lot more genuine in the space, and knowing that Instagram is really trying to push not a huge slew of ads, but like more authentic interactions. I think the order button, actually, in a weird way, while most people would see it as the advertiser's newest tool, it really is something for people to like cut to the chase.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think definitely something that we should be watching and looking for. And if you're a company that, you know, sells online, definitely be looking out for the ability to sell things in the app, because that's something that Instagram is slowly rolling out. And look for these other ways, because, you know, like Jeff was saying, the making it as easy as possible for people to buy or interact with you or do business with you is going to be the best thing. That's like got to be the ultimate goal. So moving on from Instagram, I think we've covered Instagram enough today. Let's go to Snapchat, right? So it's actually interesting because Instagram really took over Snapchat when they rolled out the stories, and sort of there's obviously still a lot of people that use Snapchat, so I'm not saying that, but one of the things that Snapchat is working on right now is actually partnering with music, production and music licensing companies. So companies like Universal Music Group, Sony, things like that, to get licensing for that music within the app, so that you could actually, obviously take those videos, put a song on it, not have to pay for that song or buy it or have it on your phone or something like that, but just be able to have access to it. And so I think that they're, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the app TikTok, but it's actually out of China, and it is something very similar to Snapchat, but one of the big strengths that they have is that it's short videos plus music over the top, and then obviously getting really creative. And so a lot of younger people are going into that. What do you guys think? Do you think adding music to Snapchat's gonna help it out a whole lot? Do you guys use Snapchat at all?
I don't, and I keep telling my kids it's going to die, but I mean, I know I'm joking about that. I do think a lot of people use it, and we've seen, even learning from Instagram, that videos with music perform better. And so I think this is actually a smart move by them, because when you look at YouTube, there's a lot of people that create videos and post them on YouTube, but because they have the music, they get flagged and they get taken down.
Yeah.
And so this is a way that if you build that partnership, it does add a dimension to someone who wants to create something fun and interesting and put some appropriate music behind it. It really is, it embraces that creative artist spirit of the unique individual bringing in visual stickers, their photos, whatever, writing on there, plus the music. I mean, I think for true creatives out there, actually, I think this will be a great thing.
Yeah, it should be interesting. What do you think, Layla?
I was once Snapchat's demographic, but
Yeah.
I've since grown a little bit older and grown my way to Instagram and leveled up.
Yeah. Be on Facebook in no time.
Yeah,
Then
so
we'll get you to
already in
LinkedIn.
Facebook
Yeah.
groups
Few more
more than I
grades.
am,
Yeah, that's right.
2 more gray hairs. Get you on LinkedIn.
But what I think about Snapchat is it's the youth, it's the younger demographic, and one thing I really remember doing when I was in high school, like what was really fun to do with my friends, is exchange music. And to music share, and when a cool new song was popular, like I wanted to make sure I had it stored away, so friends came over to my house, like I had the playlist. And so I do think that like Snapchat allows that music sharing is a whole new dimension of opportunity for them, because you're not just sharing funny moments or exchanging texts. You're
Right.
now also using it as a way to exchange your appreciation for music. So it may draw into a larger crowd of younger generation people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's an interesting move, and we'll definitely see how that plays in. Snapchat is definitely if you're a business owner, it's if you have a younger target audience, it's a pretty specific demographic that you would want to target with that channel. Not nearly as broad as an Instagram or Facebook or something like that. So if that isn't your target demographic, though, I think it can be a really great way to connect with your demographic if you can do it right. Okay, so enough within the news. Let's get on to some nuts and bolts things here. So first thing I want to talk about here is an SSL certificate. Now, Layla's going to explain this to us, and Layla, why don't you explain to us how someone can tell whether a site has an SSL certificate on it or not?
Okay.
Yes.
So when you go onto a website, at the very top you have the URL, and this will read the www.kwsmdigital.com. But right before that, there is a section for HTTP or HTTPS. And so the S has basically a secure, it's like stands for secure.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
that means that website does have an SSL certificate set up. If it doesn't have one, it's usually blatantly obvious, because most browsers will also have a massive red bar that says not secure, and if you click on it, it's like your information has the ability to be removed, like this is not a safe website. So you'll very much be aware when the website is not secure. So for business owners, we have been helping them to become secure.
Yeah, definitely. So can you explain like maybe some of the benefits of an SSL certificate?
Yeah, so especially this is more for the business owner. People get deterred from your website if you don't have an SSL certificate because of all those warning signs, and it may cause them to react and leave your website, or to not feel comfortable leaving behind their contact information. And so putting that SSL certificate on there makes the user more comfortable with your website. It also is your part in securing all the data that you're collecting. So if you're collecting people's email addresses or phone numbers because of your different web pages, you want to make sure that you don't get hacked, because it's your responsibility to protect that information. And the other part of it is that Google actually also watches the SSL certificate and takes it into consideration when it's like comparing your website to other websites and ranking you all. If you have that SSL certificate, you have a leg up from everybody who doesn't, because Google ranks websites higher that do have it set up.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Anything?
no, I mean that's all good. You know, there's an SSL certificate is, you know, it's one of those things that we, that websites who were like e-commerce websites and websites that were social media sites, those were kind of the sites that only really needed it traditionally, right? Because people were doing a transaction, like making a credit card purchase, obviously putting sensitive information in that way, or like a social media site, they're setting up a profile, so they're putting information in that way. And so, you know, until about 2 or 3 years ago, it was kind of like, okay, you only need it if you have one of those types of sites. But over the last 2 or 3 years, yeah, that SSL certificate, basically anyone who's doing any kind of, has a legitimate business, is driving traffic to that website, should really have an SSL certificate on their site. It's super easy to set up, and you buy the SSL certificate actually from your hosting account, but then actually to install it, it takes a little bit of work from a web designer who actually goes through and makes sure that everything, you know, images and all that kind of stuff, it is secure. It takes a little bit of work to actually get it to switch from not secure to secure, even after you've purchased the SSL certificate. And so that's something we do for our clients all the time. And so it's an easy way to secure your website, and it's something that we recommend for everyone, right?
Yeah, and I think that for those people who watch the show religiously, they might think, like, wait, you guys already brought this up like 3 weeks ago, like why are you bringing it up again? And it's to your point, is that it's not just about buying the certificate. Like, we did that for our clients, and we took all the steps that we needed to take, but there are some people who just said, okay, thanks, I'm going to buy my SSL certificate. And for you guys, there's one more step you have to do, which is redirect all of your old links. Because if you're a frequent blogger, like, you'll say, hey, to learn more about this, go to this other blog that I wrote, and you most likely copied and pasted the URL that has HTTP in it. So even though you have the SSL certificate, if there's any clicks happening on all of those old links that you put out, it'll put them on an unsecure version of your website. So that's the step that you're talking about, is like, make sure if you're going to be doing it, that you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And there's a blog about it to explain to you how to do it.
And I think even,
Check it out. Yeah.
you know, like you said, this was predominantly an e-commerce and social media thing. But I've even noticed in the last few iOS updates, more and more URLs I'm plugging in, it will tell me not secure. And this is a sports site, and it begins with a vowel. I won't say which one it is, but up until literally a week or so ago, I was getting not secure every time I visited that site. And I'm seeing more and more websites come up where it's showing that this is not a secure site. And you may not be putting in your credit card information, but if there's any login component at all, and you're one of those people that uses the same password for everything, and it's associated with an email or a login, that's not a good thing if the site's not secure. And so even whether you're a user, you know, keeping an extra eye on, is this site secure that I'm frequenting, or if you're a business person, you never thought you needed it before because you weren't e-commerce, there's a peace of mind that comes in with that certificate that, you know, in this day and age, everyone's a little bit suspect of kind of the sinister dark web approach, and whether that's someone who can hack in through a website and look through a camera or whatever that is, not to, you know, scare people, but the fact that there's a site that the site is secure, I think offers peace of mind to the user, whether you ever sell anything or not. And so it's just a no-brainer to add it in and keep your site kind of more secure for your audience.
Yeah, and to your point, since this is a step that business owners have to take, it's very likely that you have been on websites in the last few years that your computer has cached and remembers, so that when you start typing a URL, it automatically fills it in for you, and you're actually going to that old non-secure website. So to protect yourself as just an individual, clear your browser history and go visit websites for the first time again. It'll be a little bit time consuming because you have to re-input all your passwords, but you will make sure that you hop over with that update that they did.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so look for that S on the URL. So HTTPS, and if it's got it, then the SSL certificate is there. And if your site doesn't have it and you're interested, obviously we can help you with that. Just let us know. Okay, thank you very much. That was very informative. I know that's something we've been talking about a lot lately, and getting a lot of business owners educated about that. Jeff, let's talk about blogging. Okay, blogging is a big important topic. I'm always saying that it is one of the best, if not the best thing you can do for SEO, in addition to getting great content out there, getting found online. It's a fantastic way to market yourself online.
Yeah, I mean, I really think blogging, and I'm sure you guys agree, is like this backbone to your organic digital marketing strategy. And it's because it lives on your site. You build up a cadence with Google recognizes that you're posting frequently, and we recommend posting at least once a week, same time, same day. It shows that you are committed to consistently uploading new content to your website. And really what not only Google wants to know, but your potential audience wants to know is you're an expert about what you do, your product or service. And so this is actually Layla's blog. She put this together. I'm going to try to do it justice. But there are some easy tips on how to format your blog the right way. And I know there's a lot of information out there. And I think the first thing we dive right into these 5 best practices. Title. I think a lot of people try to get super clever, and they create things like, why grandma's cookie, isn't the best thing that's baked out there. So you have no idea what that even means. And there's probably some inside joke that it relates to the last sentence in the second to last paragraph of your blog, but you're not really answering the question. You have to step back and think, why am I writing this blog? Why are we producing this? And it is to inform people. That people are finding you, they typically have questions. And so in terms of the title, you want it clear, you want it concise, and you want to, a lot of times, just answer a question that's frequently asked out there. Mm-hmm. Why do I need vitamin C or vitamin D? And how do I get it if I'm not in the sun enough? Like, those are questions that people are asking every day. And when you look at things that are highly sought on Google, it's always questions. And people have a lot of questions, and if you can answer that question and you can answer it well, your page will shoot up in the rankings. And I know that's really everyone's goal with their website, is to be the top of page 1, right below the paid ads. And so a clear and concise title is really important. And within that, getting the right keywords in there. So again, that clever, funny headline, or the metaphor that you're using that you might write all throughout won't really bring the information that someone who's searching is looking for. Mm-hmm. And we're in this society now where we're on our phones, we need information fast, and it needs to be clear. And so putting the right words in helps the search. And so if you're looking for best price for a used car and you have the make and model, then you want to put how to get a Mazda, best price for a 2018 Mazda. And you really want to focus in, not like, greatest deal on cars less than 2 years old, because that's not really helping you. If you really want a Mazda, that's how you need to do it. And so keyword dense headlines, get those right words in there. And I think you may have seen this if you do a search, but sometimes you can write how many ounces are in a cup, and you'll see a little descriptor display come up, and I think it's called a snippet. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's called a snippet, and I don't know why I didn't know that, but or why I'd forgotten it. But that snippet, you can actually optimize your blog, so Google will pull that out. And so if you can answer, so everyone's trying to answer the question out there, right? Anyone who's competing in the same space, they're all trying to answer the same question. But if you answer it best, Google might pull your snippet up, and they might be able to get information off your site without ever going to your site, but you're always going to show up as the authority at the top of the page. And so that can be done in a few ways. It can be done with bullet points or lists, something, again, really concise that gives a step-by-step. And so if you're writing an article, somewhat like this one, 5 best practices for formatting, maybe you put the 5 the 5 bullet pointed list at the top and say, we're going to break them down here, 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 and here. And you could have an anchor link in there or something to drop people down, so if they're not interested in the first 2, they might want to see number 3. And so that's a good way of trying to instantly pull your blog post onto page 1 at the top of Google. I think the other thing that's really important also are the images you use. And we see a lot of different things with blogs out there. Some people get really creative and they've got all kinds of text on there and it reinforces. And I think, you know, we tend to have a habit of, we do get a little metaphorical when we use our images for our blogs, and that's because it provides a little different dimension. We talk about online digital marketing all day long. We could have 700 blogs in a row with someone with their fingers on a laptop, right? Because ultimately that's what it is. But if we say, you know, how to avoid phishing scams, and we show, you know, a guy with a fishing pole, obviously it's a play on the word fishing, but it adds a little bit of color and a little bit of different context to what you're searching for. But having a solid hero image can really help your blog, and a lot of people just go with plain blogs, and I'm sure you guys have seen this. Even reputable sites, they don't take the time to put the image in.
Right, yeah.
And then, you know, I think the last thing, and then, you know, you get you guys' feedback, because I know you guys know blogs well, a lot of people like to write on and on and on and on in these big, long paragraphs. And, you know, I think if we weren't by nature already skimmers of headlines, the smartphone has definitely made us, like, quick scroll and find. And so making sure your headlines are actually using headlines and not just bolding them in your copy, but actually if you're using a WordPress, going in and marking yours as headlines. Google marks those differently and calculates those differently than if you just had bold text. And so again, giving people a good breakdown of like quick sentences that they can jump to, because they may only need a portion of the information in your article. And if you deliver to them fast, they're going to love that article without reading the whole thing. And I'll open up to you guys. I mean, these are just 5 tips. We do this all day long, and there's a lot of things you do. What stands out most for you guys for blogging?
Well, I think what really stands out to me and what makes me very happy, because I went to school and I learned how to write good essays, but blogging is like throwing that whole thing out the window. It's like you really don't need to follow like APA formatting. You really don't need like full paragraphs that have an intro sentence and a closing sentence. Like the blogs, if you think about the blogs that you actually stuck around and read, they were the blogs that just had like 1 or 2 sentences and then just a big space, and then 1 sentence and then a space. And so it's thinking like a reader and trying to make your point without just adding so much fluff. And so to your last point of big blocks of paragraphs, like you're on your phone most of the time. So if you're scrolling, you know, think of how much text you have to consume. And so it's better to switch up your font sizes, make sure you get those headline tags, and just give the reader a flow to go through.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is all great stuff, and there, you know, we could talk for days about blogging, right? Well, one of the things that you really hit on is answering questions, right? And answer specific questions, right? There are literally billions of searches going on, and people are searching for all kinds of different stuff. So the more specific you can get with your question that you're answering and putting that right in the title, like the more likely yours is going to be found. And one thing to note is when you are answering that question, be as comprehensive as possible. Because if people are searching for that, yes, they want to be quick, they want to be able to consume it quickly, but they also want the right answer.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Google looks at, is whether your web page was the last search or the last website they clicked on before they redid another search, right? So if they ask a question, they click on one site, they go back, click on another one, go back, click on a third one, and that one's yours, and then stay on it for 4 or 5 minutes, get the information, go back to Google or close out the browser or search for something else, then in Google's mind it says, well, that third site was better than the first and the second one, right? And they're going to start to bump you up. And so that is really important. Now, Jeff, I do want to ask you a question, because I would safe to say you've edited and looked at thousands of blog posts in your career. What is one common thing or a couple of something that you think that you see people like do sort of incorrectly, like very commonly, that you say, if you're going to be blogging, make sure to try to not do this?
A lot of times it's the headline.
Yeah.
And I think what you really need to understand is you have to answer the question. And I think even taking a step back, before you even do that, if you're a business and you're going to blog, think about all the FAQs that you get. And maybe they already reside on your site, maybe not. And if you don't know, your marketing person doesn't know, talk to your sales team, talk to your product engineers. Like, getting the right answer. So literally, like you said, having that authoritative answer that's comprehensive. If you could say, how do I change the fuse in my dryer, my clothes dryer? Like, you've literally put that in there and you've done a step-by-step and you've got images. You don't have to have a lot of text. If you've got see here with a diagram and all that stuff, you will be that authority and you will bump up. And if you are an electrician and that's what you do, or you're some kind of handyman and that's what you do, you're going to, you will probably get a call when that person gets stuck if they can't do it themselves or don't want to do it. And I think that's why you see plumbers and electricians and everybody, auto mechanics are flooding YouTube with videos, because they'll show you how to do it. It's like us. We sit here each week and we talk about here's how to do it. But if you don't have the bandwidth to do it right, that's when you call a professional. And I think that's where we are like the plumber, the service Maytag man, right? So I think the biggest mistake is the headline, is that people try to get too cutesy and they get caught up in the like BuzzFeed-isms that, you know, BuzzFeed puts those out there and you see them because they're a powerful entity. They're publishing dozens of pieces of content a day, probably hundreds. Yeah. And so they have the visibility, they have partnerships, they're probably in with Apple News, so you see BuzzFeed. It's not that their headline is that great and that's why it's showing up there. It's because they have the infrastructure to get it out there. If you want to get in with people like that and compete with a BuzzFeed, you have to put in what people are asking for. And so if I'm going to search, how do I change a fuse in my clothes dryer, and you've got a blog that has that exact thing, I'm going to show up on your blog. And if I can't do it myself and you're in my neighborhood, I'll probably give you a call. And so I think really getting rid of the cutesy and really emphasizing, you know, this blog is called Best Practices for Blog Formatting. And I guarantee you there are, you know, dozens of searches every day for people trying to figure out how do I format my blog properly. And these are all the important keywords: best practices, blog, and formatting. And so keep it simple with the subject line or the headline, and you will start seeing success with your blog. And track that organic search traffic in your Google Analytics. You know, like, don't rely on comments, because people don't really comment on blogs. Look at your traffic and see how long people are spending on each blog that you write.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Stephen.
So the point is, write great headlines, right? Journalism 101, right? Write great headlines, lead with what's most important. Layla, anything else you want to add?
With all the time that I think we're over time, but there is one last minute thing that I think is really helpful for people. So when you type a question into Google, it usually says, like, here are 5 other questions that people have asked. Did you need to ask any of these? So you can keep clicking down on them, and there's like many different blog topics right there ready for you to start writing about. So be your own customer and find your topics by just doing your own Google searches.
Okay, fantastic.
Great words of advice.
That absolutely. So now that you know everything you need to know about blogging, go out there, write some great stuff, and get it found online. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to us on YouTube. You can see all of our past episodes. Also, be sure to check back every Tuesday, 12:30 Pacific time. We go live right from the KWSM office and share other great information. Hope you all have a great day. Talk to you soon.